Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Women's Sacred Conversations. These conversations are sacred because they resonate with the energy of helpfulness, support, deep connection, and inspiration from the perspective of feminine divine qualities. Can you feel that? We are women having sacred conversations, ones that are revered, spiritual, and holy, and are to be honored. I describe them this way because the conversations we have together uplift us, educate us, and let us know that we are not alone. We are together on a journey of wholeness and happiness, constantly evolving and expanding our consciousness. That's such a great gift to expand our consciousness. And so all people are welcome to listen in and learn, and yet we're going to stay primarily focused on the voices and perspectives of women. So I'm your host, Dawn Morningstar, a fellow journeyer reaching into and living from the dimensions of the higher self. I'm a master coach, author, and founder of Venerable Women, which is a sisterhood, a philosophy, and a movement. Venerable Women emboldens women to change the world by bringing our wisdom to life. Does that describe you? Are you dedicated to changing our world for the better and know that you have the wisdom that will be helpful to that end? That's who Venerable Women are. We are awakening in some pretty profound ways and sharing our gifts. Venerable means worthy of honor, love, and respect by virtue of wisdom and experience. And I always like to remind myself and other people that all people are venerable and worthy at their core. Sometimes this is a little hard for us to wrap our heads around, but it really is true. Our very essence makes us worthy of honor, love, and respect. And venerable women are learning to claim the idea of their own venerability and worth after 10,000 years of patriarchy. Think about that. 10,000 years with male energy in charge. And we are really awakening to that. And our philosophy is never, ever to create another hierarchy where the feminine divine is in charge of the masculine or more important than the masculine. I really believe in what Riane Eisler says, where we link the masculine and feminine energies. We link them and really respect and honor the positive attributes of the masculine and feminine divine, which reigns in all of us. And so I think that this is, I know this is a really exciting time to be alive. So in this podcast, we're going to have a centering meditation. Don't do this if you're driving, please. Some cosmic influences, a dear venerable question and answer, and a guest interview. There will be links to everything we mention in the podcast show notes, which will be available in the next few days. And if you are not on our email list, please sign up on the Venerable Women website, and you will receive future recordings and updates about what's going on with Venerable Women, which is pretty exciting stuff. And also, it would really mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to our monthly podcast and give us a review and a rating. When you do that, that raises us up in the algorithms, and then other people can find us. So our theme for this podcast is Women and Money. What is your intention? And our very special guest is Susan Cevette. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Susan a little later in our podcast. She has some very intriguing ideas about women, money, and prosperity. I love these sacred conversations, and I'm really grateful that you are a part of them. Before we do our centering meditation, I'd like to tell you a tiny bit about Venerable Women, which is sponsoring this podcast. And also, if you would like to be a sponsor of our podcast, you can let us know. We can have a conversation about that. So Venerable Women is a sisterhood, philosophy, and movement for women who really want to change the world. and are already doing so by bringing their wisdom to life. And you can learn more by reading my book, Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves, Transform the World. Or if you don't like to read books, you can listen to it on audible.com. The 12 Venerable Attitudes, known as the V-Attitudes, are a foundation of inspiration, kind of like a how-to, so that we can gracefully and communally integrate into wholeness. So let's get ready for a little centering meditation. I think of it kind of like a peace pause. If you are driving while listening, please wait until you are no longer driving to do this meditation. So let us go ahead and begin. I'm going to mute everyone on the call. Beautiful. So take a moment, dear one, to focus on your breath. Just follow the breath in and out, not trying to control the breath in any way. And let's go right into the quantum field, which is our conscious experience of oneness, of universal energy, the basis of all life. Breathe into the quantum field and trust what you're feeling. Don't worry if you have it right or not. Trust it and breathe into what I like to think of as our divine essence. Beautiful. Now call forth something that your heart desires. This can be an experience you'd like to have, or something that you'd like to have in your home, or a new car, or whatever. Or maybe a gift that you would like to get for someone, or maybe that vacation that you've been wanting for a long time. And now ask yourself, what is my intention in having this desire? What will it add to my life or to the lives of others? What is my intention? Feel this desire from your heart with an expanded view of why you want it and how it will bless your life. Feel from deep within your consciousness that you have the manifestation of all of your dreams and desires within you. You are not separate from that for which you desire. You really are one with the things that you desire. See yourself as one with this desire, and not that it's something separate and outside of you that you have to really claw for or really make it hard to have it happen. You are already one with it. You embody this deep truth. You understand, embrace, and practice that real and joyful abundance is having what you want, when you want it, with plenty left over to share. Really feel what that feels like. That real and joyful abundance is having what you want, when you want it, with plenty left over to share. You may use your free will to create and have what you would like in any manner you choose. The people, experiences, and things that make you feel whole and make you feel happy come to you easily and effortlessly. You uncover and boldly practice the wisdom of prosperity, and you understand how it comes to each of us. You know that your constant gratitude for what you already have and for what you long to have as though you already have it are the keys that always open the door for your heart's desires to come into your life. You awaken, dear one, to the idea that having your heart's desires fulfilled is a way that our divine expresses through us in the world. It is not selfish to have our dreams fulfilled. It is an expansion of joy Allow your heart to welcome all that you desire and open yourself to knowing that it's yours for the asking. Your happiness blesses you and blesses our world. You having what you want does not take it away from others. It makes their desires possible too. Let us bring our attention back to this moment, grateful for all we are co-creating with one another. So wiggle fingers and toes and feel yourself fully present in your body. Feel yourself blessed. And then I will end this meditation with some sacred words that have been used over the centuries. Amen. Om. Shanti. Aho. So it is. And blessed be. Blessed be. So now we will move gently into cosmic influences. And this one is from Emily Trinkus, who's an astrologer, and I quote from her a few times in my book. I really like her work. And so this is really talking about the idea of Taurus. And at the peak of the Taurus lunar cycle, that's all about building a better world and up-leveling your own reality. The full moon that we had on Saturday evening, this past Saturday evening, shows you where you need to empty out, what you need to release to free up space for new growth and aliveness. You know, we hear about this a lot, this idea of purging, emptying out, letting go. You know, but to do that with intention and to really, truly empty out and let go of what we don't really need anymore, whether it's stuff, clothes, shoes, things in our homes, or even old thoughts or old patterns, to be very intentional about that. And yes, it's very powerful to do that during a full moon, but it can be done at any time. But really to free up space for new growth and aliveness, especially here in the United States in springtime in the this hemisphere, because I know we have some listeners in the southern hemisphere in Australia, so I don't like to assume that they are having new spring growth because they're going into their winter season now. But for us here in the United States, to focus on this idea of this spring renewal and these sprouts coming up from the earth to remind us of this new growth, that is true for us as well. And another thing, during this time of the full moon that we had on Saturday, most of the planets are in water and earth signs, which are the feminine elements that call for slowing down and turning inward. And so this full moon really did and continues to invite us to really go deep and to work our magic from the inside out, to stop looking for our things that make us feel better, or to make us feel that sense of magic to come from the outside, which I think many times we can do, but to really have that emphasis on the magic coming from the inside of us out. Other horoscopes are reminding us to have a playful spirit and to allow for a lightness of being. And so I would ask you, what would that look like for you in your life? That idea of being more playful and a little bit lighter. I know there's a lot of heaviness in the world right now. It could be in our own lives or in the lives of others, or in, just different areas can be heaviness. But what would lightness look like for you right now? And how can you embrace that? So thank you to all of the astrologers who help us to remember our connection to the cosmos, because we are definitely a part of the divine cosmos. And now it's time for Dear Venerable. So here's a question that I got a little earlier today. Why do I sometimes feel shame about wanting money? And I have heard this so much over the years. I've been coaching for almost 30 years now, and I've heard many of my clients and women in general at the gatherings that I host and have attended say that they believe that wanting money for them, making them feel like wanting money for things makes them feel like they're being selfish, or that if they look really deep within, they might feel that they're undeserving or unworthy, or have some negative past messaging about money from childhood. And the answer to this, or part of the answer to this, I believe, lies in what our meditation called forth. That idea that some people feel that like what they desire, or having what they desire, when there's so much lack in the world and poverty, it makes them feel guilty or shameful. Especially when sometimes they'll say, well, gosh, I already have food and water and a place to live and all of that. And if I want these extra things in my life, that makes me feel guilty because of all the people who don't have those things. And this can be especially true if we are very compassionate and caring people. But I guess the way that I look at it is that we benefit by remembering that everything is vibration. That's that idea of the cosmic field. Everything is vibration, everything. Furniture, plants, us, rocks, all of it is vibration. And when our vibration gets raised because we're happy by having that new car, or buying that gift for someone that we love, or getting that new sofa, or whatever it may be, or taking that trip, then our joyful and happy vibration is higher, and that lifts the energy of the world. So we're actually being helpful in that regard. And the other thing is to take a look at, what is our intention underneath our desire? Is it to fill a void? Because that's something very different. If we're like buying stuff or wanting stuff because we feel empty inside, that's really something to take a look at. Yet, if we are doing our inner work and feel really one with our divine, then desiring and having these other things expands our joy. So when we're answering that question for ourselves, like, what's my intention for this? With deep honesty, I think that then that's when we feel free to experience and have what our heart desires without guilt or shame, because we really understand at a deep level that we are expanding the beauty and divinity of the divine within us as us in the world. And doesn't that feel good? And then the divine as us gets to experience these things too. And that's pretty beautiful. So our guest, Susan Cevette, is going to have some more ideas for us on all of this as well. Let me tell you a little bit about Susan. Susan Cevette works with entrepreneurs and individuals who consciously create their lives. She has her MBA from the Opus School of Business, University of St. Thomas, and a BA in the Great Books from St. Mary's College of California. She has more than 15 years experience implementing financial plans that reflect the unique needs and values of her clients. She is authentic and genuinely inquisitive and really connects with her clients. She focuses on mindfully building investment portfolios and financial plans that are strategic and intelligent. Susan and I are friends. I'm very happy to say that I'm very grateful to have Susan as my friend. And she and I co-hosted a Women's Wealth Summit along with Carol Hyder in 2015. We focused on spirituality and practicality, which is a very good combination. And so I would like to welcome you from my heart. Susan, welcome to Women's Sacred Conversations.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm so grateful to be here this evening and excited to share some ideas I have about money and all the things I've learned over the years, not just working with clients, but working with the clients and thinking about myself in the same room. So
yes. Wonderful. Well, I've got a few questions for you. And the first one is, it's kind of a two-part question. The first part of it is, how did you end up as a financial advisor? And I have that question because you're such a spiritual being, and I know that they're not mutually exclusive things, but you know how sometimes you meet someone who's very spiritual and you don't picture them being in a particular occupation. So that's part A of the question, is how did you end up as a as a financial advisor? Mm-hmm. And the second part of that question is, how has your own relationship with money been? Has it always been good, or has it evolved? How has it evolved?
Well, to answer the first question, how did I end up a financial advisor? If you would have told me when I was studying the great books in my 20s that I'd be a financial advisor, I would have told you were crazy. So, but as I was finishing my MBA, I was in my early 40s, and I was bored. I needed something more in my life. I know I had a strong entrepreneurial spirit, and I had an aptitude for finance. So I took a crazy test that took 6 hours, and it was one of the things it said I should be. And so I jumped in. I trusted the situation, and next thing I know, I was a financial advisor.
Wow.
I love numbers. And I find there's spirituality in numbers, I mean, it's in feng shui practice, right? There's the 9 and the 8, and each of them have different meanings. And I think that I see it play out in investing and in stocks and bonds and in financial plans. So I think I was destined to be here because it's a great combination of my gifts, and the spiritual part is just who I am. So, I think, like in all things, if we're open to how the universe guides us, then our purpose and our skills and our talents and our abilities can become aligned. And I feel like I'm in that space now. I feel so grateful for that, that I get to touch people and help them figure out their own lives. And really, my purpose is to make all those I touch more abundant, and the more abundant they are, then it's the ripple effect, right? And then They touch others, and that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I wanted to share my experience seeing you work with numbers, because they have not been my forte over the years, for sure. And I'm happy to disclose that you are my financial advisor. And I love sitting down with you because you have demystified that whole process for me. And you've helped me really let go of shame and guilt that I had around money. And I love watching you kick into gear. It's like when you start looking at numbers, your whole demeanor changes. It's almost like you're channeling, or I don't know that channeling's the right word, but you go into this space where you almost become one with the numbers. And I think it's a magical thing to watch. And I also love the fact that in investing, you really truly help people to line up with investments that support who they are in the world. Like, I'm vegan, so I was really interested in stocks of companies that are, putting vegan products, plant-based products out there in the world. And you didn't laugh at me when I said that. You totally got it. You really helped me to feel good about what I'm doing in the world with money and to help me understand it better. So I really am grateful for that. And I guess I wanted to ask you how I've just shared a little bit about my own evolution with money. And I'd like to know, how has your relationship with money evolved or changed over the years? What's your story about money?
Well, when I was young, we always had enough, and I never really thought about it. And then I became an adult, and there wasn't always enough. And so I had a very sort of perplexing relationship with money. I just didn't think that it wouldn't be there. And there were times when it wasn't. When I was raising kids and earlier in my career, I was always good at managing it, but even if there's not enough there to manage, then
right.
It doesn't matter how much is there if you can't. If there's not enough there, you just it's a tough place to be. So there was a stressful time in my life where I was a single mom and starting a business, and it wasn't a lot of fun. But there was a couple of things that I just did intuitively, and one of them was that I honored the fact that I didn't want to be in debt. So, and in doing so, I learned something. Money would appear just as I needed it. So, and not when I thought it should be there. So that didn't mean that I didn't worry and fret and get scared, but it would magically show up exactly at the time I needed it. And so I watched this process in myself, and I watched some clients struggle and other clients not struggle. And what I figured out was that we have to get out of our own way to let the universe help us and guide us. So, like, having a credit card, this might sound crazy, for emergencies, if you don't have an emergency fund, isn't really helpful, because what happens is you're trying to control a situation when in fact the universe will support you. And there's just like this healthy level of trust that we have to have around money, because and around the universe. So I was out of my way. I didn't need credit cards. I always recommend, however, not to be in a situation like that.
Right.
You should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses, not necessarily income, but living expenses set aside for your needs. And that should be in a savings account. That's just the way, that's just healthy, good stewardship of your money. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you've had quite the evolution, even to the point of having worked for another established company and then deciding to go out on your own. And we will talk about that in a minute. So many women, Susan, for different reasons, shy away from matters having to do with money. And some are even averse to the word or idea of wealth, especially in spiritual circles. I remember back in the day when I first got involved with spirituality, I remember people in spiritual circles said that like money and wealth was bad. And they didn't say it was bad, but they like if we use the word prosperity, or if we brought up the word money or wealth, they would say, oh, but abundance and prosperity is so much more than that. And it is true. That is 100% true. But yet it was almost like this unspoken thing that money and wealth was dirty, or it was to be avoided, or that we didn't need to think or talk about it in some circles. And so I wondered, what would you have to say to women about money and wealth?
Money is a tool. That's all it is. What we think about it, what we attach to money is really different from what money is. So having money, you could say that having money doesn't necessarily make someone less spiritual, but you could also say that in some ways having money makes you more spiritual.
Interesting. Tell me more. Yeah.
Because if you have money, it is the currency of the planet, and nothing gets done without money. All of the causes that we believe in can't be moved forward without money. You wouldn't have been able to write your amazing book without money, and you wouldn't have this podcast today if it wasn't for the amazing book that then led to this, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Money is just a tool. The more money you have, the more good you can do. The more money you have, the more money you can have. And that's the beauty of money, and that it compounds. Money is just basically congealed energy. So if you think about it, if you go to work, like in our office here, we have 3 people doing, helping clients and doing whatever they're doing during the day. And at the end of the day, we make money. And that was the congealed effort of all of us here doing something that was lifting the planet, not only just like the buying of investments, or the selling of investments, or providing services, but also like the fact that our clients have more money and they're doing more things. It's also the congealed efforts of our skills and our talents and our abilities. You put that all together and it makes money. And that's good. That's all good. We're using our God-given gifts on the planet, living out our purposes, and how can that be bad?
Exactly. Yeah, and money, as you said, it's the currency of our planet, and it really is energy as well. It definitely is an energetic, that's another thing that sometimes people can struggle with, is the exchange of what they put out in the world in form of service, like in unpaid work, like volunteerism and caretaking and all of that, not asking for money for some of the things that people do, or people expecting others to do things without any kind of exchange of energy. And I do have something very, very exciting that we will be talking about in a future podcast, actually a new form of money that will help to supplement people's incomes. And we'll talk about that at another time. So, Susan, women generationally have not had primary control and access to money and property. I mentioned earlier on in the podcast about 10,000 years of patriarchy, which means 10,000 years of male-dominated or masculine-dominated control over money, property, decision-making, all of that. And so it seems to me that women are playing catch-up, so to speak. What advice can you give to women who are kind of maybe new to this or not very good at it yet to help build their wealth? What would you say to them?
First of all, you're worth it.
Oh.
Knowing your worth, right? And isn't that the third beatitude? Like,
yes.
By accessing her, by accessing her finest self, making inspired choices and doing what is hers to do, right?
Yes.
So, understanding your worth. And I want to step back just a second and address the all of the work that we do, those pink collar jobs that we don't get paid for in our society. And it's not just women, it's men too.
That's true. It is more women though.
It is more women. And the thing is, it's been traditionally women. And there were, like women stayed at home so men could work, right? And make more money.
Yeah.
So I think that's in our psyche and in our DNA. And that's why it's so hard when so much of the work that we have done isn't given a dollar figure. It doesn't feel like it's worthy. So that's where it starts with worth. Then you have to get a plan, but you can't get a plan unless you believe in what you're doing, right? So that's where you have to have, you have to empower yourself to believe that you can get this done. So you need to get a plan, and then you need to get your head out of the way that all the what ifs I can't do. A financial advisor, and that's where a financial advisor really helps. Somebody to sit down with and who's going to sit back. You're going to have all these subjective thoughts, and they're going to objectively analyze them for you and say, let's look at this a little differently. So once you get a plan, then you can create investments around that plan, and then the magic starts to happen.
Yes.
But part of that too is really like going back to the whole intention piece. You've got to know, what it is, how you want to live your life, what it is you want to accomplish, and then you have to harness your own assets, whether they're, money assets or your own skills, talents, and abilities to congeal energy to move you forward to make money.
I love that. You shared a concept at a gathering that I attended at Water's Edge about our intentions regarding money. Can you tell us more about that? I loved what you said during that workshop that you did.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun. I often sit down with clients and I need to get an idea of what their goals are. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Because if I know what they're trying to achieve, then I can help them create a plan and create some investments and, So this is what I found. So if I ask clients what their goals are, they always tell me, well, I want to retire and travel. Well, really? Is that really what you want to do with your life? Is you want to travel and you want to retire? It's because the question wasn't asked appropriately. The question is, what is the intention for your life? Is when you ask that, when you say, what is your intention? That's a whole different question, right? The intentions are things that you want to accomplish, about how you want to live your life, like that you want to maybe intend to leave everyone you touch a little bit better than before, right? Yeah. Or you intend to build a business, or you want to raise your children to be capable individuals, or you intend to have good health. Those are all intentions.
Yes.
Goals come from there. Like, I don't know, when you're raising your kids and you want to send them to college, but they need $200 for cello lessons a month, and you have to look at that and say, okay, where's my intention? My intention is to help this child grow to be their highest and best. So what is the best use of my money right now? Not what I should do, but what's the best use relative to my intention? And that's where you can take all of the shoulds and the coulds and the woulds from, all the things you read about what you should do with your money. And then it's when you have an intention, then it's more clear about what the decision should be. And now you're in alignment. Now you're aligning your life with your money. And how powerful is that?
Wow. And going back to energy, it's a different energy to say, like when you ask people, what's your goal? And they say, I want to retire. There's a different energy from that to one of, I want to experience the world in ways that makes me joy or makes me feel joyful, or I want to, explore my curiosity about life. You know what I'm saying? It's like a different energy. It's like, I just want to retire. Or some people will say, I just want $1 million. I hear that so much. I just want $1 million. Well, what do you want the $1 million for? What is it energetically doing in your life or for your life? And I think that that makes a difference as well. It almost feels like that makes it more of a magnet to have more money come your way if the energy around it is more authentic and beautiful and joyful.
Absolutely. And that's where the trick of it, right? Or I don't know if that's not really the right word, but that's where the beauty, you're right. That's where the beauty lies. When you know what it is you intend, and people know their intentions. Mm-hmm. We all know what we like, what we want to see accomplished in our lives. We do know those things, you know. Yes. We're asked. Those are all kind of lighted. They lay in our values and the way we see the world and how we've been born on this planet, our perspective of the planet, and kind of why we're supposed to be here, what we're doing.
Yes, exactly. And then I guess the last question I have is one I just thought of, and that is, what would you say to people about the idea of money and fear?
Okay. Yeah, I go there. Now, I work with money a lot and I still get fearful. So the first thing I would say is, what am I really scared? What am I really worried about? Like,
interesting.
The fear isn't about the money. The fear is about something else. Like,
interesting.
Am I going to be hungry? Am I not going to live my purpose because X, Y, and Z isn't going to happen? Am I going to fail myself? Am I not good enough to do this? Do I not really believe in myself? I mean, the fear is about something completely different. And that's the tricky thing about money.
Interesting. So then what I'm hearing you say is that when we address what the real fear is, then we can experience a shift.
Yes.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So are there any other thoughts that you wanted to share with us before you give out your information, how people could find you?
I just a little bit more on that fear piece. I think we attach a lot to money. So our egos run amok. We attach our fear of not enough, our self-worth. If we have money, then, we feel guilt and shame for having it. If we don't have money, we feel guilt and shame. Like, it can go both ways, right? So at the end of the day, I think really we just have to remember it's just money. And whether we have it or we don't have it, or we're good stewards of it or not good stewards of it, or whatever it is that's about us.
Wow.
It has nothing to do with the money. And once we start to work on ourselves, that's why the Beatitudes are so beautiful, because they in of themselves allow us to be in a space where we just manifest and create, right?
Absolutely. And for our listeners who are not familiar with the Beatitudes, they are the Venerable Attitudes. They are the 12 ways that we live as our highest and best selves in the world. They are in the book that I wrote, Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves, Transform the World. And the first 4 of those Beatitudes have to do with a woman's relationship with herself. The second 4 have to do with her relationship with the divine. And the third 4 have to do with her relationship with other people. And in those Beatitudes, there are many that talk about how to live our highest and best lives. And there are 2 Beatitudes in particular that have to do with prosperity and abundance. And those would be Beatitudes number 4 and number 8. And so we don't have time to get into that right now, but I'm really glad that that's a practice that you're embracing, Susan. I know it's helped so many women, and the tie-in with money and abundance and prosperity is so important because in order for women to become influencers in the world for good, we have to have all of our needs met and then some, right? Having what we want, when we want it, with plenty left over to share. So with that, I want to thank you so much. And please answer the question, if people would like to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
My website is Waters Edge Wealth Management, all one word. You can reach me at Susan at Waters Edge Wealth Management. You can look me up, my last name, you'll find it there. And then Cevette, Cevette, and then our phone number, and that's 612-481-4395.
Beautiful. And I will post all of this information in the show notes on the podcast as well. So if you were not able to get that down right now, don't worry about it. You can look in the show notes and they will all be there. And so thank you so much, Susan. I'm going to talk a little bit about upcoming events. And I am so grateful that you took the time to share your wisdom about women, money, and our intentions.
Thank you, Dawn. It's fun.
It was fun. Okay. So here's some upcoming events. On Monday, June 10th at 7 p.m. Central Time, I am going to be doing a webinar that I love teaching. It's Uncover Your Personal Power, the 5 stages of venerable being. And why would you want to do this online class with me? Well, if you're tired of judging yourself or judging other people, if you're feeling stuck in some old patterns, and if you're ready for a refresh, a renewal of how you see yourself in the world, you will love these 5 states of venerable being. It's an extraordinary class. I just taught it last week, and the women who I taught it to were blown away. It's a really different way to look at how we show up in the world and how we can really be very intentional with how we show up and get rid of all that judging. I don't know about you, but the whole judging thing can be exhausting. And so that's on Monday, June 10th, and you can register for that on venerablewomen.com. On Wednesday, June 12th, we're doing our live in-person free gathering called Bold Conversations. We call it that because it's women saying what needs to be said in order to change the world, and it's from a very high vibrational frequency. I'll be hosting this free talk and gathering at the Barnes & Noble in Harmar Mall in Roseville, Minnesota from 10 to 11 a.m. And this month we are going to be collecting toiletries for women leaving federal prison. We did a bra drive last month, and I'm very happy to say that we collected so many bras that now they are able to give them to other re-entry centers, which are centers that support women leaving federal prison, which is a part of the Venerable Women Empowerment Foundation work. On September 21st and 22nd is a very big weekend. The 38th Women and Spirituality Conference is taking place. You definitely don't want to miss this. It's going to be in Rochester, Minnesota this year by the Mayo Clinic. The theme is Sisterhood, Wisdom, and Wholeness. And you can go on to womenandspirituality.org. I'm going to be doing a very special workshop and would love to see you there. We're going to have a booth, a Venerable Women booth with all kinds of goodies there. So I'd love to see you there for this weekend of transformation. And on October 13th, Annette Regalo, Carol Hyder, and I are doing an extraordinary workshop called Living in a Sacred Dimension. And that is going to be at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. You will definitely want to learn more about that. And that is on the Venerable website as well. And so people ask, how can I support all this wonderful work that Venerable Women is doing in the world? Well, you can take a look at purchasing facial serum number 18. That 100% of the profits from that goes to the Empowerment Foundation, helping women in prison. And when you make any purchase of any of the other services or products on the Venerable Women website, a percentage of every single sale goes to the Empowerment Foundation, and I am loving the work that we're doing with the women's prison and for those who are women who are leaving the sex trafficking and prostitution world. So, in closing, in sisterhood, we trust our intuition, we make bold, inspired choices, and we take action to bring our wisdom to life so that we're manifesting a kind and loving world together. Doesn't that feel good to know that we are manifesting a kind and loving world together? I want to thank you for transforming the world by transforming yourself. We will see you next month. We always do this on the third Tuesday of the month. And so we will be looking forward to hearing from you between now and then. You can visit us on our Facebook page, which is Venerable Women. And until then, I send you every blessing.